Imagine a place where there are no roads. To get there, you have to travel by boat or plane. People still eat off land, hunting and gathering. There's no police, no sheriff's office. And if something bad happens, it can take days for law enforcement to arrive. You might be imagining someplace far away, a distant country. What if I told you this place was Rural Village, Alaska, where the only law enforcement is one state trooper for every 1 million acres, as reported by the Alaska State Troopers annual report? What if I also told you that according to an analysis of FBI's Uniform Crime Report 2016, Alaska has not only the worst violent crime rates of the nation's native communities, but leads the entire nation. The Alaska Department of Health and Social Services reports 75% of Alaskans have experienced domestic violence or sexual assault. And alcohol mortality rates are 6 times higher in Alaska natives than in the rest of the United States. Alaska is a very big state. It is about the size of Texas, California, Montana combined. The distance between Juneau and the northernmost top of the state is about the distance between New York City and Kansas City. Many citizens of the lower 48, because it's separated by Canada, do see this as a different country and know nothing of the life experienced by the people of rural Alaska. I didn't, until I had an opportunity to go to the Bering Sea, above the Arctic Circle, a small little village called Unalakleet. Home to about 700 people, 75% of which are native, Inupiat and Yupik specifically. Unalakleet is outside the reach of roadways, and it remains in many ways the same as it did hundreds of years ago. In that village, like so many others, is a people striving to hold on to their culture through traditions and the teaching of craftsmanship, subsistence living, and food sharing. The Alaska Native communities are trying to combat the ever-growing rates of crime. Returning to tradition offers Alaskan youth with an alternative to drinking and substance abuse, which inevitably leads to violent crime. So let's look at the first way to do that, craftsmanship. The Alaska Native Heritage Center describes how historically Inupiat clothes were made by hand with materials such as skins and furs. Items like mucklucks, or slippers, are made from seal skins and decorated with porcupine needles and bones, or beads made from bones. Today, sewing and jewelry making has moved into the artistic sphere and out of the practical. But the traditions of each piece hold a vital role in the culture of the Inuit people. What I'm wearing is a kuspuk. It is a traditional Yupik or Inupiat garment. Modeled after the common parka, Native women first started making these out of lightweight cotton sacks brought over from whalers in the mid-1800s. According to the Anchorage Museum, patterns were handed down from grandmother to daughter to granddaughter. This time of women sewing together was a time for intergenerational bonding and learning from the elders. Today, many women and men and children are taught the art of sewing the kuspuk and the tradition behind it. But what did the men do while the women were at play? Alaska is still a largely subsistence living state. A Veneti hunter describes subsistence as using and preserving tribal and cultural methods while protecting and interacting with the land and its resources. The Alaska Department of Fish and Game estimates 37 million pounds of wild food are consumed by subsistence users each year in Alaska alone. That includes salmon, caribou, seal, whale, muskox and fowl, herbs, roots, and berries. The Department of Fish and Game also have 8 criteria for regulating subsistence use, and one is intergenerational transmission of knowledge, skills, values, and lore. The hope is that subsistence living will help preserve traditions of the Native communities, and indeed it does. Children are taught young how to use harpoons and rifles, set crab pots, and go fishing. Both boys and girls have an active role in not only killing their game, but learning how to clean it. So once you're dressed and the food is gathered, what then? Inupiat people have a rich and unique cuisine culture. They dry their meat, they smoke their meat, they pickle their meat, and a rather unusual delicacy for a resident of the lower 48 is muktuk, which are bite-sized slices of equal parts whale blubber and skin, often eaten raw and dipped in seal oil. This is a prime example of native Alaskan cuisine. And after the caribou stew and smoked salmon is eaten, a good tuck is brought out. This is commonly known as Eskimo ice cream. a frozen berry treat made of animal or fish fats. One of my favorite things that my NUPF friends like. But the real point about Native cuisine is bringing people together. Food sharing is the term used by anthropologists such as David DeMoss to describe the culture of food in the Inuit population. What is gathered or hunted is not considered the property of the hunter, but rather the community. Younger hunters give food to elders. Meals are a time of sharing, storytelling, and fellowship. Food was and is a way for the Native people to form bonds, care for one another, and provide for their communities, particularly when hunting such large game as whale, and the whole community is needed to bring it in. So while even Wi-Fi is available in towns that you can only reach by boat or plane, the traditions of the Native people are still alive in Alaska. Through craftsmanship, subsistence living, and food sharing, the villages of Alaska are strengthened and Native culture is preserved. It is the hope that these traditions can combat the rise of drug and alcohol abuse and violent crime. In appreciating and passing on their traditions, my friends, their children, and their children's children will hopefully have a brighter future by remembering their past.